Hello and welcome to another special Musical Gems episode for Opium Pulses. So this one is it's been a long time coming. It's spanned across two huge releases. And if you watched the last bonus episode, you'll know that this is a Linkin Park special. So as a big fan of Linkin Park in my younger years, and still in my current years actually, I think they hold up pretty well. They've released two 20th anniversary editions of their first two albums, and they're pretty big releases, costing into the hundreds of pounds and dollars. So I'm not sure if they're limited, but I guess in terms of the cost, they're going to cut a lot of people out of being able to see or even own them. So we're going to do two kind of unboxings of these. The first one for Hybrid Theory came out either last year or the year before, and I have opened that just because I knew it would be years before I'd be able to get to this video. So we're not going to be unsealing that, I guess, but I'll show you every single element of both of these releases. And then we've also got a bonus vinyl package, which I'll explain in a bit more detail when we get to it. So without further ado, we'll get to, I guess, showing the design, which I really like. I'm not usually a fan of gold on black. I think it looks pretty tacky, but I think in this case it looks pretty good. The outer casing, you might notice some discoloration, I guess. I've had this out of the seal since I got it, and it has an almost rubberized... It's not super noticeable, but it does have an almost rubber exterior to it. And so it picks up dirt, and it can get... It's not at that point right now, but I imagine in a couple of years this could get pretty sticky. And I've had vinyls laid up on top of it and against it, and you might be able to see that there's a sort of outline of those vinyls. So where the dust has settled and maybe ingrained itself in the rubber, it gets discoloration. So while it's got like this really amazing quality and premium feel to it, in a couple of years this might not look as good as one might hope for something so expensive and prestigious. We'll spin it round. See, I wiped it down and I forgot to wipe the back down, but it is just clean black with just some, I guess, publisher details at the bottom. And it's unfortunately got a bit of damage there. I can't remember whether that was there when I got it or not. Either way, nothing on the back to go by. The contents is what really matters, so we'll get to that right now. So it's got that rubbery sort of feel all around it, so it's actually kind of hard to get this cover off because it kind of suctions itself to the outer edges of the inside box. But once you're in, everything's pretty clean sailing. This was on the back when it was sealed, so it has the entire track list. I can probably go through it so people can pause and see the extent of the track listing. I'll go through things briefly. This is just the original album. This is Reanimation, which was sort of their remix mashup version of the album with other artists and hip-hop and electronic artists featuring on the songs. Then we have Hybrid Theory EP. So before Hybrid Theory came out, the band used to be known as Hybrid Theory, and so they released content before that first official album came out. That's the EP. Then you've got... So I guess there was a Hybrid Theory EP and then the album on CD1. So I should explain, this is the vinyl, and then this is the CD. And then you've got the CD of Reanimation alongside the vinyl of Reanimation. Then you've got a CD of the B-sides and rarities, and then a CD of LPU, which stands for Linkin Park Underground Rarities. So they did release a lot of their rarities to members of the Linkin Park Underground over the years, and some of that features here, and then some completely unheard stuff as well. That's the extension of those rarities. Forgotten demos on CD5. So I'm not sure. I think a lot of this sort of leaked over the years because I remember hearing it, on YouTube and stuff. But these are obviously, I guess, the highest quality versions of those you can find. Frat Party at the Pancake Festival DVD, Project Revolution DVD, the sequel to the DVD with the worst name we've ever come up with. DVD, and the Fillmore 2001 and Rock AM Ring 2001 live show DVD. Nothing on the back of that. You may have seen in my previous video that I asked for questions about what people thought about the stickers that are usually on the outside of the film. I tend to find a way that I can preserve these, and I guess this was where I thought was a good place to put it, but didn't didn't diminish, I guess, the design of the product itself. So again, I'd still like to know what people do with their stickers, and if it frustrates them that they're not part of the package, or if they prefer it that way so that they can do with them as they please, whether that be throw them away or stick them elsewhere. So we'll just go in order of the content that is in the box, because it's basically all laid on top of each other. I won't show too much of this, but you can see it's a really thick book. Pretty minimal design, as Hybrid Theory always was. But it's got pictures of the band. I think it's got interviews of the era. It's got extended artwork of the album itself. I mean, I guess now that I'm looking at it, a lot of it is mostly artwork. I think these might be the single, the artwork for the single releases. Let me see if I can find anything that's outside of just pictures. It could just be mostly pictures. I mean, there is text from the band. It explains, you know, how they got a record deal and how the production of the first album went. Yeah, but you know, if you're from the UK, you'd have seen mostly pictures like this in Kerrang or Metal Hammer magazine and stuff like that, because UK press for metal bands was very much in line with how pop press was, I guess, for the bands. They had them on front covers looking all sleek and airbrushed. So I recognise a lot of this imagery, at least in terms of pictures of the band, from magazines back from when I was younger. I'm not sure if it made it outside of this country, but you might recognise it. So this is kind of the more interesting stuff. Pictures of their very first shows, back when they were known as Hybrid Theory, and the band might have been known as Zero at one point. It looks that way based on this, but they also had a Zero EP here. You may recognise this childlike baby face. We'll get to that because there's more content on that release later in this package. I guess I have shown you the majority of this, but you get the idea. It's extensive, and it doesn't hold any punches. There's a lot to it, and it feels nice. It's got a good design. So, to the vinyls, which are so well placed in there, they're kind of hard to get out. This is the LP for Hybrid Theory, which has got really cool artwork. It reminds me of Massive Attack's is it Teardrop with the talking baby, and I think this is probably lost or extended artwork, because I never remembered seeing this before this release. But it's really cool, and you can see the track listing there. Is it worth getting the vinyls out? We'll take one out. Oh, and some of them do have extended artwork inside. But I don't want this video to go on for years. But I don't think the vinyls don't have a great deal of variation. They are black. They do have, I guess, some aesthetic design, but very simplistic. So I don't think... I might show Reanimation, because there's a chance that has a lot more uniqueness to its design, but if it doesn't, you can kind of assume none of the others do either. And I don't think it's cheap to custom design vinyls, so I think this product would have ended up being a lot more money if they had, and it was as expensive as it was. So this is the Reanimation vinyl. Again, it seems to just be black, so we won't show any of the others. I'll just show you the inlays and the designs so you can get an idea. So this seems to be either extended artwork or taken directly from the booklet of the original release and blown up onto this vinyl. And it's got the track listing below with all of the people that collaborated on that. You can get a better picture from here. I'm not sure what the general consensus is on this album, but when it first came out, it was actually one of my favourite things I'd ever heard, particularly from Linkin Park. I just thought it sounded really fresh, and probably didn't get enough credit for really pushing the boundaries of what rock music was. There's a lot of hip-hop on this, there's a lot of electronica and break beats, and there's just some really cool renditions of the songs, and it featured, I guess, some of artists from bands I was listening to at the time, like I'm pretty sure, so we've got Aaron Lewis here from Stained, Jonathan Davis from Korn. I thought they had Chino Marina from Deftones, but maybe I'm misremembering that. Either way, it's a really cool release, and if you haven't checked it out for whatever reason, and you're a fan of Linkin Park, I really suggest that you do. So that's that vinyl, and then we have Man, I can't believe I'm doing this with a knife. It feels so wrong. Let's do it like this. Then we have the actual release of the album. So this is the inlay artwork. I believe some of this probably came from the booklet of the original. Oh, okay. And then the inlay actually has lyrics for all of the songs. That's quite cool. Did they do anything special with the vinyl? I don't think they did. No. It would have been cool for at least one of these to have a special and unique vinyl design, like particularly like for just for this album. You know, this is what it's all about. That would have been cool. But again, I don't think it's a cheap process, and this was already spiraling in terms of cost anyway. Then we've got some bonus artwork. I'm not sure if any of these were, I guess, original design ideas for the album. Or if they're just included just for bonuses. Like I don't think I've seen this before, but it's got the cool sort of wing and flag design from the original album artwork itself. And then here we actually have a poster of Chester Bennington's arms. Obviously he has the infamously recognisable flame tattoos, and I think this is from a gig where... Oh, I thought it had people holding his hands, but that might be a different one that I'm thinking of. Anything on the back? No. So it's just a simplistic, almost conceptually evoking poster of Chester's arms. And then there was this... you could download the digital versions of the tracks, which I think we already did. So there's not a big reason for me covering the code. I just don't want people trying and not being able to get it. And then, okay, let's go on to the CDs. So there's quite a number of these. Here we have the Forgotten Demos with the sort of zero type design on the front here. And you can see the track listing here. Sorry if it's not focusing very well. I'll spend most of my time focusing. If you can kind of get the idea I'm hoping from that. This is the Linkin Park Underground rarities. And then this is B-sides and rarities, or some of them are live tracks from Radio 1, which is a BBC radio station in the UK. Should I guess? No, it's not going to properly focus, I don't think. Okay, so that's those CDs, and then I guess what are these? Here we have it's weird, they've got like a box for them to sit on, and they don't all have that. I guess so that's so that all the CDs sit at the same height. Let's put that back in. Here we have just the album on CD. No different to what you will hear on the vinyl or the original release. Reanimation on CD. These are using at least unique artwork. You know, they're not just slapping on the standard artwork for the original releases, which is quite cool. And then a Project Revolution All Access Pass, and I'm not really sure if this can be used for anything. I guess it's symbolic because, you know, maybe people from Project Revolution would have got these types of cards, and obviously the show isn't going ahead anymore, so maybe it's just a cool little keepsake. But a nice addition either way, you know, that sort of thing doesn't need to be included. And then something that seems to be having a bit of a, you know, resurgence in modern releases is cassette tapes. So this is I guess a replica or a rebuild of their sampler that they sent out to record labels and I guess radio stations when they were first coming about. And it comes with One Step Closer and With You, which I don't know, are these demo versions? I mean, I'm sure they'd have to be because they would have been redesigned for the album. If these are just the LP versions of the songs, then it's kind of missed the mark. So I'm assuming demo versions of these two songs on a sampler tape, but it does say Warner Records, so maybe it was a sampler sent from Warner to radio stations. I haven't read too much into this sampler, maybe that's what it is. But a cool addition either way. Very simplistic. Makes you feel like you're almost holding what would have been an original sampler, which it clearly isn't. And I believe that is it for this release. So that leads me on to something else, which I'm not really a big fan of, and this has happened now for both releases. So, you saw the vinyls that we got. We got the original album. We got Reanimation. And we got Hybrid Theory. Okay, so there's more CDs than that. In fact, I won't go into it now, but let's go back to this. And you can see that, so Hybrid Theory, Reanimation, and the Hybrid Theory LP. But when you go to the CDs, there's the Forgotten Demos and the LP Rarities and the B-side Rarities. So none of these have been put onto vinyl, which is fine. You know, maybe they didn't want to, or they just didn't feel like they had enough strength to be put on vinyl. But now we're going to move on to a secondary release, which I got as a gift after this because I was bummed that I felt like I'd missed out on something. And that is an LP collection. Now, what you'd assume that would be is basically just the LPs from this release standalone. But we'll get into that now, and it is actually sealed because I knew once I got this, I'd be making a video. So this was essentially, I don't know what it was called at the time, but it was essentially like the ultimate collection. You know, it was the completely comprehensive collection of all of the content that was going to make part of this release. So you'd expect, as a customer, that you were getting everything. And for the cost, you really should be. Like, I'm not joking. The cost was... there's that sticker problem again. So that will have to go somewhere else, potentially. We'll get to that later. Please leave a comment if you think I'm being pathetic. Or maybe don't. Maybe just think it. No, leave a comment. I can handle it. I'll have a drink or something tonight. So, let's get into this. Let's stop messing around. I've not opened this before, evidently. This is the Hybrid Theory. This is not glossed like the original one is, and this is just matte. It's not rubberized. So even though it's cheaper, I actually prefer this design just for longevity. It's going to last longer and look better for longer. And on the back, it's just got their symbols. You know, it's. I guess they've used all of these along the way at some point in time. This I remember seeing on the sampler. I don't remember where the arrow was, but I've seen all of these over recent years. And one thing that Linkin Park seems to have is they almost have like their sort of Western design, and then they have an almost Asian influence design with their, you know, their mechs and just some of the artwork used on more of the earlier albums. Which is weird. It's almost like they've got like a marketing team that considers their audience in different areas of the world, which you don't get that commonly, at least not with bands like Linkin Park. Anyway, I just thought that was a cool thing to note. But we're going to open the vinyls now. Oh, one of these is actually sealed while the other one isn't. That's strange. So you can already see, now this is the second time I own this, and the second time I own this, which you may be thinking, well, you bought the vinyl pack from this. Well, I don't own this. This is not part of the main package. So to get this and still have everything else, you need to buy this package, which was near on £200. And then you have to buy this package, which I believe was about £60, which only includes 3 vinyls. So this is the only way to get this. So you either just want this and you're happy to get the vinyl collection and you're good, or you want everything and you have to buy both packages. Now, obviously, this is a marketing tactic. They've done it on purpose. They know they can get people to double dip this way and still look like they're honouring the music and honouring Chester. Now, obviously, I love the band. I haven't got anything ill to say against any of them. This is maybe a marketing ploy that the band don't know about, but I'm not happy with this. And it's a trend that has continued. We'll see it when we move on to the next piece. So I'd be interested to hear what people thought about this double dipping move, and maybe it's just industry standard at this point, and there's nothing that can change, and maybe any big publisher or record label for a band would do the exact same thing. But I was bought this as a gift, and even that made me angry that someone had spent so much money when the only unique thing I'm getting is the B-sides on vinyl. But there you go. You can see my frustration there in first hand, because that big package should have included everything, or this vinyl shouldn't have existed. At least that's my opinion, anyway. Okay, so it's very, very tight. I won't be getting those out again, so that's the first and last time. Now we're going to move on to the final piece for this video. It does seem to be dragging on a little bit here, I apologise for that. Is the Meteora 20th anniversary. Now this came out relatively recently, within the last couple of weeks, and you can see here what it contains. So we'll just go over this briefly. Meteora on CD and LP, Lost Track CD featuring the newly released song, including Lost, Fighting Myself, and More the Victim. Just something on those. I got fairly addicted to the song Fighting Myself. I think it's really unique, and I don't know if it intended to sound that way when they first recorded it, but I think it's a really cool way to manipulate Chester's vocals, and like the hip hop on it just sounds really fresh and new for a Linkin Park song. Everyone's freaking out about Lost. I just think it sounds like an alternative version of Numb, and More the Victim I'm not a big fan of. But in addition to that, you get Live in Texas, which is a bit of a shame because that's already a released live album. You can get that for a couple of quid anywhere. And Live in Nottingham, I'm not sure if that was ever released on CD or DVD, but if it wasn't, it's a nice addition. Plus B-sides, rarities, live tracks, and unreleased demos. 3 DVDs, 4 previously unreleased concerts. That's quite cool. And a 40-page booklet featuring notes from the band, exclusive photographs, a lithograph, a poster, a sticker sheet, and a stencil. And includes high-res digital download code, which I'll definitely have to cover up because it's not something I've used, clearly. You have the set list here. So annoyingly, they've got this sort of black border which covers some of the track listing, so I can't go over it without opening it, but we'll open it first. I didn't pre-order mine because I was on the fence about buying it, and when I went to buy it, it was £20 off, but I'm starting to see why. But it doesn't seem to be any damage, and I was going to open it anyway. So we'll go ahead and do that now. Again, this sort of this halo around the top of the record, I don't understand. I'm going to need to make an incision here. Again, it has a sticker on the outside. Maybe that's a good thing. I don't know, but obviously it's up to you whether you use that or don't, I guess. And then again, it's let me push this back. It's got this here, which it seems pointless, particularly when it really doesn't hold that much information. You know, it's got a 15-strong language and then what is already evidently on the front. Why does this exist? Anyway, it at least allows us to see the track listing more clearly on the back. And here we can see that it comes with Meteora, side 1, side 2 on LP. It comes with Live in Texas, and there's 4 sides to that. This seems unnecessary to me. I think they could have grabbed something else. Live in Nottingham on 4 sides. Meteora on CD. The LP Rarities 2.0 on CD. Live Rarities 2003 to 2004. Live Rarities. So one thing to note from these live rarities is it has the song Wish, which is a cover of 9 Inch Nails, and I've listened to it and it sounds really good. And it's also got One Step Closer with Jonathan Davis playing alongside them, Project Revolution, which is cool. Lost Demos on CD4, The Making of Meteora, The Art of Meteora, Work in Progress DVD, Veterans Stadium DVD in 2003, Live in Seoul 2003. Is that a DVD? It doesn't say. I think it might be on this DVD, so I'm assuming it is. And then I guess these are the 4 live shows that have never been shown before, which is strange because this is a Project Revolution one. Anyway, that's a lot of content, particularly if you enjoy watching Linkin Park live, because they are a great live band. You got a lot of live content on this, and not just audio but visual. You know, the whole show, and hopefully there's been some production put into that to really show it at its best. It's got a gloss feel, which I'm not against. I mean, some people are worried about fingerprints showing up, but they don't seem to be on this one, at least not at the moment. And it all, I guess, falls out. So I prefer the originals. Okay, this is actually just a sleeve. That's a shame. The original definitely cost more money to produce because this is just a glossy cardboard sleeve at this point. And then in here, Mine's even got a dent. That's nice. It's kind of like a book, I guess. Let's see if I can get this where the camera picks up. So it opens up. Let's move this camera. You can see like a book with different compartments for the different elements of the package. Let's see. It actually comes out of the top. Interesting. Sorry, I hadn't seen this before I showed it, so I didn't quite know how everything was going to come out. So here, is there anything else in there? No. Let's push this down. This is the Meteora LP, and oh no, it's more than that. So these are very flimsy sleeves with nothing but the LP in there, and the LP isn't even in a sleeve. It's just that. So that's not. And this has a rubbery feel to it, much like the original Hybrid Theory release. Live in Texas, I guess maybe this never came out on vinyl, so I guess that's a good reason, and it's like one of the best live shows, at least that I've seen, so maybe it was included to at least get it on a vinyl release. And I really like the artwork. I just think it, you know, if you didn't know this was in Texas, you might be able to make some assumptions based on the artwork. I don't know. And then, oh, I guess this is the other side to Live in Texas. I think they'd included more tracks than the CD had. I might be wrong, but here we have 8 tracks, and here we have 9 tracks. So that's quite a lot, and I don't think the original release had that much. So if it didn't, that's cool that they've added a few more, I guess. So that seems to be the extent of the vinyls. Now, I believe there's a vinyl release that comes with, I think, one of the rarities. I should have done my research before doing this video. But in the same manner as the Hybrid Theory, there is a vinyl release package that comes with something that this package doesn't. So again, the double dipping mentality from the record label to try and get people to spend more than is necessary. And annoyingly, you know, you want everything in one package. It's not so much the cost thing, it's more you're having it spread across multiple packages, and it just takes away the feel of having the ultimate sort of celebration of this album and the music. Here you can see we've got the stencil pop-outs, which is just a really weird addition. It's nice to have different types of feelies, I guess. You've got some original artwork here. I'm not a fan of this, but it is at least unique. It's almost got a sort of futuristic design to it. Oh, these are the stickers. Again, this feels a little like I've got them out of some pop magazine. It's bizarre. But again, it's nice to have different mediums of content. And then you got a poster here, which again, I won't open up, but it's the whole back wall of Meteora. So this wall here, this is only a very small snapshot of, I really like this white design, this clean white design. I didn't mention that. This looks really cool. Anyway, this poster is essentially just this wall in colour in full, because it was actually, I don't know the extent of its length, but it was huge, way bigger than you see. I think I just heard something fall. Yes, it did. So I won't show that because that's a code. But this is the code for the digital download. And then what is this? Oh, that might be the QR code. To be honest, I probably can show elements of this because I will have used the code before this video goes live. But to redeem your digital download, go to blah, blah, blah. So those are for the digital content. I don't think anything else fell down. No. We can kind of view this quite well because it opens like a book and is freestanding. So here we have the lyrics, more images of the band from that era. Remember, Meteora didn't come out too long after Hybrid Theory, probably no longer than a couple of years. So, 1 second. They wouldn't have changed much, I guess, as a band, besides having this success and having to follow it up with something they felt justified their trajectory as a band. And at this point, I remember being English myself, the music press, at least from the rock scene, were calling them a manufactured band. So at this point, even I, as a big fan, was wondering, am I just listening to a boy band with guitars? Like, has this all been manufactured by some pop studio? There's a documentary in here that shows the sort of the development of the album and how it was produced and written. So they've essentially dispelled that myth. But it was something that even as a fan, I couldn't shake growing up, wondering whether I was listening to a manufactured band. And it did impact my ability to really enjoy the music fully, because obviously I listened to rock music because it felt like it came from a more pure place and wasn't written just to chart, just to hit the charts, and more for individuals of a similar mind space. So I think a lot of what was put into this is to show that this was, there you go, there's the production of The Wall and everybody contributing to it in their own way, and then obviously only a subsection of that actually ended up on the final album. This is coming up to a half an hour now, and there's not going to be much editing in this video, so I'm going to try and plow ahead. There's the CDs. I won't take each one out. I think you get the idea of the design. I'm not a big fan. I like there to be distinction between what is what, and these all feel like they're part of the same thing. Unless, of course, they are part of the same thing. They could be, because those look different. But again, it's just different variations of the same image on DVDs. Not a big fan of that. Okay, let's get to the final pieces here. So here is, I guess, the vinyls of the live shows. So this is Live in Nottingham, I guess part 1 and part 2. You can see the track listing, just in case this ever was released as a separate release. I'm not sure if it ever was. I like the artwork. I like the sort of the blue and the red. I think they contrast quite well together. But I think that might be the final content of this. So in terms of, I guess, what you get, I much prefer Meteora. I like the way that it's laid out. This is kind of cool in its book form, but you can't get each piece out individually. You have to kind of go through it as a book almost. And I like the fact that you got a cassette in the original one. This one has the benefit of having much better unreleased tracks. So there's one called Massive, which is another of my favorites. I think that's really, really powerful. And is it Fighting Myself, I think, or something along those lines, is another standout for me. But there are numerous, I think 5 or so, completely unreleased tracks that didn't even end up on the LP Underground that are really worth a listen. It feels like they're a time capsule that not only takes you back to that time, but also sounds as high quality as their original stuff. And there's a chance, I guess, that they could have touched these up and reproduced them and mixed them to sound more modern. But I guess that's what you want, right? Because we're not going to get any more Linkin Park from that era. We're not going to get anything new from Chester. And even them as a band, while Chester was still alive, had completely shifted into a completely different direction. Not one that I was particularly a fan of, but one that I respected. You know, they needed to break that mold and experiment and try new things. And so we were never really going to get classic Linkin Park sound. And for good reason. You know, they evolved as people. Lyrically, they would have changed, I imagine, to a degree. And also, that sound was very much of its era. You know, it was tied to the tropes of nu metal and rap rock and that sort of thing. So I guess breaking the mold was inevitable for them to continue to be a success. But that said, you know, that's my favorite era of Linkin Park. And to hear tracks that sort of evoke that sense and that period in time was really cool to hear. And I'm kind of glad that we're still able to hear tracks that didn't end up on their Rarities albums that still stand up to the music that was released on the albums, and in some places, for me personally, surpasses the quality of some of the tracks that ended up on the album. Anyway, that will do this video. It's really been too long, but it's also been too long since we put out a video, so maybe hopefully people will appreciate the length and the breakdown and the opinions of just a single Linkin Park loser fan on the internet. Thank you so much for watching. Really would love to hear people's comments on this. Do you think they should do a Minutes to Midnight re-release, a 20th anniversary edition, or do you think these first 2 albums really they have a special place in a lot of Linkin Park fans' minds, because Linkin Park were essentially kids at the time and they were just riding the wave of this popularity of music that they'd helped create? Do you think they should continue to do this? And I'd also love to hear people's ideas on the double dipping. Do you think it makes sense, I guess, financially to encourage customers to branch out and buy more if they really feel passionate enough to own every single thing? Or do you think there should be an ultimate package that really, that is it, that's the definitive version of all the content, and they won't get any more sales outside of that product? Love to hear people's thoughts on everything that's been spoken about in this video, and thanks for coming back, any long-term fans, to listen to my rambles and watch me struggle with flimsy plastic. Thanks again. Appreciate everyone for watching, and maybe one day soon we'll be doing this again.